Hope you got something out of that. One of the things about the last talk, the last hour, I keep trying to show you all that the keys aren't standalone. All the keys fit tightly in a ball. And those four fit just so beautiful that as I prepared for the discussion today, I think I even learned more about my own keys. So I hope you got something out of that. I've got two questions, but I think before we get to the questions, which will be pretty quick to answer, I thought we can open it up. Would anybody like to share how these principles I just talked about have actually worked in your own life? If you don't want to, that's fine. But if you'd like to, it might add some depth to this. James?
I have for me, stunning example just this morning.
Perfect.
As soon as you mentioned the third key, gratitude, my niece, 1 week ago, flew down to Haiti to visit her library that she set up there. This was before the assassination of their president. So we have been on pins and needles, and she just chartered a helicopter this morning to the airport. And as soon as you mentioned that key of gratitude, it popped up on my cell phone. She made it. She's safe. And I didn't have time to engage all of my brothers and sisters in this. It wasn't time to, print out an email and send out the word. But yesterday I was talking to Tia, and I shared with her how much I would appreciate prayers. And the prayers answered, and my heart is just bursting with gratitude. Thank you. This principle this key. And I think to some extent, it's consistency in doing my spiritual exercises, singing you. And this was a delayed kind of out of the blue. Here you go. Back at you, James. Back at you. Love it's just beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, James, for sharing. The timing was impeccable. It certainly would reinforce that gratitude is an important part of love. It is a secret of love. It's actually a demonstration of love. So thanks for sharing that. That certainly was a big time waking dream. The timing was perfect. So I'm glad she's safe. And I'm sure there's a lot of chaos down there, things to worry about. There's a lot of chaos down there pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
But right now it's heightened, of course. So I'm glad she's safe. And maybe after this morning, a little bit here, you can reach out to your brothers and sisters and stuff. So I'm happy for you. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you. It kind of reinforces the living word just at the moment that you spoke that. Here it comes.
God often will use timing through himself or a prophet to accentuate something. Where it really gets your attention.
Oh, yeah.
So that was, I don't think that could have been any better on gratitude, the timing.
Thank you.
God could make sure your niece is safe, set it all up, and also bring us that lesson for this particular topic.
Beautiful.
I felt I dragged a little bit on one of the earlier ones, spent an extra 30 seconds or a minute on the one before that. So he even had me get in sync with him getting in sync down there. And you either think it's a coincidence or you believe, like James and I, it was not a coincidence. And that's, of course, your free will to decide. But it certainly accentuates that spiritual key. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Cool. Anybody else? Yes, Rebecca?
Whenever we're talking about giving love first, um, back in February, there was one morning after singing Hugh and declaring myself a perfect vehicle. Um, I wasn't feeling well that day, and I just wanted to stay in bed and not do anything. And my thought was, okay, I'm here in my house all by myself. How am I going to serve someone? And it was, I took a nap and got up, and there was a text on my phone. And it was a friend of mine asking some advice and asking for some information on a vehicle. And I just smiled because here you go. You surrender, you give love, you say, I'm willing to help. And even in not feeling well, it doesn't matter how you feel, it's what's in your heart. And God knows that. And whenever there's somebody out there that's in need, he'll find a way to meet that need. And it was just so beautiful because it was one of those days where you just want to pull your covers up over your head. But still, you surrender and you give that love and it comes back to you.
That, to me, also, thank you for sharing that. I also see that shows dear, how dear this topic is to the Heavenly Father. That his children down here, us, learn to give and receive love back and forth. That's why we're down here. We were a little selfish when we were up there with him. And we're down here over many lifetimes to learn to get over ourselves a little bit in a balanced way and learn to give and receive love. Because you wanted to serve, that says you wanted to give love. To me, the same thing. Service is love. So you wanted to give love, if I can change that term, when you wanted to serve other people. And this highlights how important that is to him because he found a way, even though you were home in bed and you couldn't get out and do stuff or go out and mow somebody's lawn, that type of giving love, he found a way very quickly the same day, and it came to you. You didn't have to butt in, came to you and asked for your help. So to me, that reinforces, Rebecca, that if you want to give love through service or just say give love, and hang on because he will, it's so dear and so important to the Heavenly Father, he'll find a way. And I think all of you have experiences like that. I have so many letters where one day you really want to serve or be a blessing to somebody. It's all giving love. It's another way of saying it. And hang on, that day you really, just all these opportunities come up. So thank you for sharing that. So I hope the advice was
Thank
good.
you for the opportunity.
Also goes back to the key I talked about today. When you hew, you send love and gratitude to the Heavenly Father, so God, however you want to do that. And there's always something that comes back, even if we don't ask for it. It always comes back through our experience for many, many years. But he also multiplies the love. We've actually witnessed him do that. We've actually witnessed at the ocean, when I take you there, him receiving the love. And he cleans it up and polishes it. Then he puts particular blessings for particular souls. He knows all the souls down here, and he sends love down. So when you hew at home, even by yourself or with me next to you, some of the hues, some of the love you send, he sends to other souls on the planet. And we would do that at the Guidance for Better Living Retreat Center. We've seen absolutely stunning things happen worldwide. We've seen the whole world vibrations change, and we do it together. But when you hew by yourself, you're still praying for other people. So if you didn't get that call, Rebecca, by you hewing that morning while you felt bad, you actually are blessing other people through your hew. That extra love he'll multiply, he'll send others we may never meet. So you can always serve. If you want to serve and you don't have anybody around, if you do a genuine hew from the heart, you're blessing other souls. Plus you're drawing nigh to God. Plus you're going to get something. Your heart will open. Maybe you'll get over your cold. You can bless us in many, many ways. So thank you so much. I see Chris.
Yeah, I have an example for giving love first. As many of you know, I've been a student of a former prophet. And over the years, I gave so much love to him and to his mission. And I expected a certain outcome, which never happened. Then I got, by the grace of Sugmat, something way better. I was guided to you, to God's true prophet. And I think that's a very profound example of how this principle works, giving love first. And then by the grace of God, it comes back in ways that only the Heavenly Father knows are right for soul.
That's a great example, and that's either you decide that's true or not. I agree with you. It's in the eyes of the one experiencing it, but that's a really interesting insight. You kept giving love to the former prophet and to that organization. It never came back in the form that you were kind of hoping for, but you kept giving. I think it's really beautiful, and it's probably great for our relationship, which is beautiful anyway, that it did come back. You're getting actually more than you even knew was possible.
Absolutely, yeah.
And now, our very first time I came to Germany spiritually and held your hands in our very first video, you felt God's love directly coming to you through me, distributing it as his prophet. It's his love and my love. I have the privilege to pass it on for the first time in your life. I think that's beautiful if you see that connection.
Yes.
That took a while, but I think you found joy in service, even though it wasn't coming back to you like the lady I shared. She found joy in just giving love freely without resentment to her husband. So you were growing, you were giving. It took a while, but I think it's come back at a real nice level for you based on what I think your goals are. But thanks for sharing that. That's a really neat connection. That might help a lot of you see a connection that's a little bit more distance. It might take multiple years, but it came back, as they say, in spades. I think more than you even realized possible. So all that love you gave out was not wasted. Give love first, you did, and you didn't resent it. You wanted something, but you seemed to freely give it anyway. Your heart was in it. You found joy in it. You had a good attitude, and it definitely came back to bless you. And all your goals, spiritual goals now, are truly possible. And you've already been taken to the abode of the Heavenly Father. Already taken his spiritual temples, the mirror thing. So, and you and Solana felt God's love and been able to accept it like never before. So everything's right on track.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that. What I see with what Chris shared, a little like Rebecca's, was you put out a prayer to give love and it came back that day. And that happens a lot. And those are a little easier to see. Or James, the timing was impeccable with gratitude. And I felt I was lingering on the earlier ones just a little bit longer than I had planned. But maybe God had to line everything up, both my side and the other side. But the ones that Chris shared are, I think this is really interesting. These are the ones where maybe it's several years. God's grace guarantees it will come, but if it's several years, can you see how you might not see the connection? Like karma we talked about. And when you get on a certain level spiritually, you kick a dog, you hurt your toe, you get karma immediately. You go, oh, cause and effect. I did something, now I just got penalized for it. When you're not so spiritually evolved, you may not get the cause and effect for months or years later or a lifetime later. So you don't learn from it because you can't connect the dots. So Chris, I thank you so much for that, because there were many years there that you were giving without receiving what you were looking for. And to connect those dots, I think, is beautiful. So I think that's really precious that you shared. And I think that might be something some of you contemplate on. And maybe sometime you have a little extra time, take this principle that we talked about today and go 3, 4, 5, 10 years and see if you can connect with the grace. It's coming, but it took a while. So thank you so much for that, Chris. That's really cool. That opens up a whole nother world. I think I see Irv's hand.
during the break, I was reflecting on what you talked about this morning, and I realized that over years, and this kind of fits with what you just said, something I realized about happening over a period of time, I got, by giving love freely and without expectations and without keeping score, I got this tremendous sense of freedom. And I kind of found myself. I found that that's what I really want to do, is I want to give love. And it freed me to be myself. And that's just this huge shift, that there's a tremendous flow of love that comes into me and goes out. And it seems like they're in balance, and it's just a joyful way to live. So thank you.
Thank you, Irv. If God's grace didn't bring love into your life, you were still blessed. And you said a word that person I talked about that started finding joy in demonstrating love, she was becoming more her own innate, her natural innate divine self. As soul, God has programmed us to be kind of like him, to want to give love and to give it freely without conditions and strings. So when you did that, you said, I could almost wanted to butt in. I was so excited when you said that, Irv, because you found your true innate divine self.
Yes.
And if the principle didn't work, you're still blessed. Like that lady that I mentored that wanted the affection from her husband, she was finding joy in service. We're programmed as God's children, soul, that ball of light, the mirror thing I showed you a couple months ago, that's the real eternal you that comes in the physical body. If you do these 4 keys today and you start finding the freedom and love and joy of service, which Jesus was talking about giving love primarily, we're happier. And you find out what your true self is. And even if it didn't come back, or if it took years to come back, like Chris, you're still better off. So it's like we have our cake and eat it too, assuming you eat cake. You're better off, you're freer, you're more your divine eternal self that has this inbred, you're created to give love. God wants us to give love to each other, so he puts that in us. We almost can't resist it. And then on top of that, the love does come back. And the other thing is you recognize love that you already had, you didn't quite recognize. When your heart's more open and you're more your true self, you see the love already in your life. And then new love comes in. So thank you. Every one of you that shared today is added. This is beautiful how this works in our satsang. We're definitely in satsang. James, Rebecca, Christian, and you, Irv, all added a beautiful piece to this discourse. Anything else, sir?
No, thank you. Thanks.
There's no downside. And my job is to help you become your true eternal divine self, not so much a lower human state of affairs, to live that higher state from the view of soul. Now, these 4 keys will also do that. In addition to the love, is you become your true self. You'll breathe love in and out the way God designed us, not the faulty, weird way that humans do it. With all these strings, I love you, but you got to love me first. If you don't love me, then I don't want to love you. And you got to love me in this language. I don't like that language. You know, the love language books that I put out and all that. It changes everything. So thank you so much, all 4 of you so far. It's beautiful. Very cool. Anybody else? Hi, Carmen.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I just wanted to attest to, because of what you taught me about gratitude, I was able to, once I started developing an attitude of gratitude, see how much love was already there.
Yes.
Yeah, and that snowballed over the years. Yeah, just keeps getting better.
You wrote a beautiful story in our books. You were driving to a dump with Mark, your husband. You were in a real down mood. And I think by the grace of God, frankly, your heart opened up. And that, I think, was a real catalyst That was a gift. You couldn't do it yourself. I believe the divine blessed you. Open your heart. You started being grateful. It was a nice day. And all of a sudden, that started a whole change in your trajectory in this life. I think in your marriage, in our relationship, the relationship with the Father, with your children.
Yeah.
Is that too big a statement? Or did that literally change all those relationships? Your mom, with your mom,
Yes.
your dad?
No, you said it perfectly. That's
It started with that heart opened up with gratitude, and it built from there. And you have the most beautiful life, a loving family, and people in your life, at work, at home, and kids and stuff that love you, that you give love to freely back and forth. But it started with gratitude. Thanks for putting the plug in with gratitude.
yep.
I think it was that story you wrote.
Yeah,
Going to the dump one day, and all of a sudden this wave came over you, and it changed everything. That was
Yeah,
God's grace. That was God's grace that changed your life.
it was that was a pivotal moment because it was such a drastic change from, being closed down and then the whole world opening up. And I could see,
It was like you couldn't see, you could barely see something in front of you, and God gave you clear glasses to see what it looked like, what was possible.
Yes.
You still had a lot of baby steps to go through, but you saw what was possible. He gave you those glasses on the way to a dump, to dump the old and make way for the new. And so it's kind of a waking dream. Get rid of the old stuff that no longer serves on the way to the dump and make way for new life. And I'm so glad you wrote that testimony. I believe it will bless others and has blessed others. Did we do a video on that? I don't recall.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, okay. Cool. Thank you, Carmen.
Thank you.
Another plug for gratitude. But that was God's grace. Now, I don't know if Carmen had been giving love. I think she probably had been, but she might have been praying or something, but God heard her and knew she was in a bad place and didn't want her life to go the direction it was going. Maybe marriage, a lot of things were at stake, I believe, at that time in your life. Your happiness, a whole lot of things. And God's grace on the way to the dump opened your heart, gave you new glasses, and look at you now. Your life is gorgeous. Your relationships are beautiful. And you're free like Herb. I think you're free to be you, Carmen, which is beautiful. To be your own unique, beautiful self. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Let's go to Renee. I can't
Hi.
find it. Hi, Renee.
Hi.
Hi.
So this happened to me yesterday. Perfect lead in. I was speaking with someone about a friend of mine that I had in Maryland that was a friend for 20 years. And I was sharing and appreciating about her name was Lisa to this other person. And while I was sharing an appreciation of Lisa and my friendship for 20 years, I just recognized, I don't know if I can get through this without crying, because what a gift God gave me in placing her in my life. And talking about gratitude, I was just overwhelmed then when I couldn't speak, as I'm overwhelmed now about God's love and how it comes into your life in so many different ways. And this was a huge gift through my life for 20 years. We're still friends, but we're distant. And then last night, I get a text from her husband out of the blue, haven't communicated for a while, about coming to see her for her 60th birthday. I mean, you can just kind of draw the dots, but from 20 years to yesterday to today, it's amazing.
That is amazing. I'm looking on page 222 of the Keys book. There's the key connecting spiritual events. You're connecting things, kind of like Christian. All these keys fit, so we can bring in a fifth key. When you see giving love and it comes back, and you start connecting it, you also add another key, connecting events. All these keys fit together nicely. But you are expressing gratitude and appreciation. And maybe as you expressed it to her, more fully recognizing it. So you were giving love. So it came back to you the way I explained. You might get love from a different source you never knew about. You more fully got to recognize the love you already had in that relation. And based on your emotion, it seems like there was a whole lot more than even you were aware of. And maybe more than she was even aware of. So that's a beautiful example where gratitude, you were giving love and respect. Give love first, and that's the way to do it one way. Also, it opened up your heart, and then God's grace came back. I suspect, based on these principles, and it's fitting perfect with the order of debriefing. That's why I call them certain people. The freedom that Irv had, it went to the next one share. Carmen, I believe she was given by God's grace an open heart and new glasses to see what's possible in life with gratitude. I believe it's something to consider. Your very quick, major upgrade in the view of the relationship, it seemed like all of a sudden you realized how precious it was, significantly more than you had recognized earlier. Either you were just really sharp that day, or in my theory, based on these keys, God right then, very quickly, not 5 years later, through his grace, showed you what was already there. I believe God's grace, just like Carmen, that's why I call them Carmen first. I kind of know where this stuff goes as a prophet. I want to make sure Carmen's just talked about where God gave her the eyes to see. I believe you might consider God that in that moment opened up your eyes to see as a gift back how precious the relationship was for both of you. Are you going to go to the 60th party? Cool. So these are perfect examples of the principles I've been talking about. Or you think you just recognized it, or Carmen just recognized it. I wanted to call him Carmen first because the guy I'm listening to, worked for, felt the order was better. I believe both of you got the eyes to see very quickly. You Carmen, going to the dump that day, and things were getting pretty rough in marriages and stuff. It was time. And also the metaphor, dump the old stuff, the old attitudes, the old thought process, take them to the dump. And it's a perfect waking dream. So thank you so much for sharing, Renee. That really emphasized the point. A lot of the love that comes back quickly is love you just didn't fully recognize or fully appreciate, or maybe not as grateful as you could have been for. But eventually there'll be other types of love coming. But that might sustain you for a while.
It was a lot and is a lot of love, and I'm still processing it.
Good. So that's probably by the grace of God to hit you with that. Hit you pretty hard. So, and if your heart opens up a lot from that, what's the chance you'll see love in other areas you haven't recognized quite as much? Remember, breathing, you need healthy lungs. When I had a lung, like a little bronchitis recently, my air wasn't as good. And I'm using that as a metaphor for your heart. Your heart's really open right now, isn't it?
It is.
So that means it's likely you could potentially, God can show you other forms of love, types of love, sources of love in your life that maybe you hadn't fully appreciated because you got more room to receive now. So this is a simple concept, but from my view as a prophet, we could go on for days because it's snowballed in from the 4 keys into the key on page 222, connecting spiritual events. These are all spiritual events. Everybody that shared today, you're connecting dots, spiritual events. James connected the timing. Chris connected timing over multiple years. Herb connecting that he's free to be him. When he gives love, he's more his real, true nature of soul. Karma connected that one gift from God, seeing what's possible with a whole new trajectory on a beautiful life. So your sharing is really helping solidify what I was trying to bring to you today. So thank you. I don't see, I'm looking for Sam. Oh, there you are, Sam. Hello, Sam.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. For those of you who don't know, I'm a letter carrier with the Postal Service and have been for many years. So over the years, I've acquired a lot of skill with my job. So when I see a new employee come in, I would just naturally try to give them tips, make their job easier, especially when I see them struggling. So I'm able to do that with a lot of new employees. And so this one particular day, this one new employee, she was from Burma. Her name is Tupa. So affectionately, we call her Papa. And I have helped her a lot, especially she's got broken English, very hard to understand. And one day she had the day off, and I was out on the route, and a lot of us get called to a certain park point to go pick up more parcels that come in later. They're Amazon parcels that you get delivered to your house. So I knew it was going to be a late night. So I'm sitting in the parking lot with this carrier, another guy, and I ran out of food and I'm hungry. It's about 5 o'clock and me and him are talking, and I get a phone call, and it's Tupa. She wanted to know where I was. I told her where I was, and she says, I have some food for you. So she pulls up and she brings out this whole gourmet Asian food meal, rice, chicken, and she's got an egg on top. And these are all like foods I'm trying to eat better in the process. It's like everything I wanted. It's like, it was just too perfect. So, and she just gave me a bottle of water on top of it. So, I mean, she took time out of her day to do that for me. But there's another part to this story. It's like this carrier that I was talking to, now he's what you call a grumpy type person. And he saw her giving me this food. And I know I've been human and been receptive, and I was picking up that he's got to be picking up something from this too, because he didn't get any food. So, and, so I think, God definitely blessed me because he knows through my stomach, you can really make me happy. But I saw him blessing my coworker too. Maybe he felt a little agitated from it, but it was showing him love because he didn't get any food. So I don't know. When I heard you say you wanted some stories, that story just popped out to me because.
Thanks, Sam. It sounds like when you help this new person at work, because you have many years of skill, and you help the new folks, is that giving love to that person? Of course. By giving respect, freedom, love, they're all different forms of love. So you were loving her and demonstrating love by helping her integrate into the job and training her and getting her up to speed and helping her out. It sounds like you also took her shift that day. That's another form of love, like filling in for somebody at work. And then it came back directly. It doesn't always, but it came back directly. She felt maybe God gave her a nudge to bring you all this perfect food. And you're also, food's important to you because you're trying to eat healthy. And it sounds like she brought you really healthy food. It's a perfect connecting spiritual events. And then the grumpy, ungrateful guy, maybe he got to see how love's demonstrated. Maybe he's the type of person who lived in the family with a bunch of grumpies, and he never learned to be grateful or to give love or to appreciate certain things or to reach out to others and not just be self-absorbed. So maybe that person was also giving love on some level. Maybe God knew it was time for him to start opening his heart Maybe the guy had been trying to, didn't know what to do, but he felt he wanted to change in life. We don't know, but God knows, and found a way to also inspire him to show how people share and give and receive love. So thank you for the story. It fits beautifully with today. Oh, you're right behind the camera, Paul. I'll duck you right above the camera now. Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Prophet.
Just thinking of a story, my neighbor who's in his late 70s called up. His lawn tractor was in the shop and he wanted to borrow my zero turn. So it's a different kind of machine, and it takes a little bit different skill. So I brought it around to him and I showed him how to use it, and I advised him, don't do this on the hill and this and that. And I said, if you're at least a bit nervous, let me know and I'll be happy to mow your lawn for you. He says, well, I think I'll do it, but I'm nervous about the hill, so could you check that out? So I said, all right, and it was kind of tricky. So I mowed the hill, and then I came down to the front and I just mowed it. It was 10 minutes, I was done. And so I went home, and we got the most beautiful note from his wife saying, what a great neighbor. So I could see the gratitude go to his wife. She was actually nervous about him riding the machine around. And so she sent the note to Nancy, so Nancy could receive the love from that woman. And then Nancy related to me. So I just see it spread from just me mowing the guy's lawn to 3 or 4 people now have been touched by that act.
That again, to me, shows how important giving love and receiving between us children of God down here is important to God. Whenever there's an opening, you gave love to him, not knowing his wife was nervous about the old guy with those are squirrely mowers too, you used to them.
Yeah.
So you helped her, you gave love to him, and it went to him, then it went to the wife, then it bounced back to Nancy and it came back to you, full circle.
Yes.
So these principles truly work. Now, Chris might have to know what he wanted. I had to wait 4 or 5 years, but he also got a big, big prize at the end of it, maybe the ultimate. But I think these examples that you've all shared show that you give love, whether it's respect, gratitude, all these different ways we've talked about, helping somebody out at work, training, whatever, bringing them food, that when you do that, it creates a chain reaction. Maybe that's the best way to end this. It literally creates a chain reaction on the planet. Now, what if more and more people did that? And you give love one day, and somebody's in a better mood, and they give love at home to their pet, to their kid, to the neighbor. They don't have road rage, they're nicer driving home, and it starts just multiplying. The nice thing to start on the planet. So, but we can each our own part. That was perfect how it multiplies. And these things could not happen if this wasn't a very, very high priority for the Heavenly Father. It may be his virtually ultimate high priority is that we learn how to give and receive love from each other. So thank you. I think we'll stop there. Thank you, Paul. It was a perfect order, absolute perfect. And some of my students will see the weave was stunning. And why I called on certain people, it was just perfect. And that's the perfect end for right now. I'll do the couple questions because there's a chain reaction. It's often not just between 2. It could be between 4. It could be between everybody at work one day. And then they go home. And the people they bump into on the way home, they're going to lunch. It can multiply. And then you go to page 222, connecting spiritual events. And this is what God wants down here for this love, give and receive. He wants his children to get along and love each other and pray for each other. That's part of the second commandment I talked about. Love your neighbor. Not just in your heart, keep it pent up, but let it out through action. Demonstrate the love. It changes everything when you put it in action. If you play pool, I don't, but the kids do on vacation. There's a pool table at this beach house. You can put all the pool balls out there, queue them up, and stare at them all day. It doesn't do anything. It's only a game when you smack them, they start moving around. You have to demonstrate the love, make it actionable. So thank you. And I thank everybody that shared. I think you added a tremendous balance on top of what I shared earlier today. So thanks for coming.